Ellie, come on, we should head back.
You better tell that to Merrick.
Ellie, I mean it now.
Come back here, you Dad!
Let go of me!
Stop! You're drowning her!
Let me go!
Stop!
Get out of my way!
Hi, welcome to the Bench Movie Club. I'm Charlie.
My name's Ben.
And in this podcast we're going to talk about Ben's Choice, the 1980 Disney cult classic, The Watcher in the Woods,
yes.
About an invisible prawn alien
Did you see? Yeah,
who
obviously. you've seen-
zaps people with its thing and takes them up on their spaceship.
No, that's not the one that I'm talking about. But
But it is the same film,
yeah,
but it's just an alternative
yeah,
ending.
that is the alternative ending, which is absolute crap. But anyway, this film's from 1980. It stars Lynn-Holly Johnson.
Betty Davis.
Bette Davis, of course, yeah, top billing, Bette Davis. Lynn-Holly Johnson, Kyle Richards, and it was made in 1980. It's a story about a family that moved to this old house, and there's the mother, the father, he's the writer or composer, and they've got the two young daughters, and one of the daughters keeps seeing like premonitions, keeps seeing visions of the girl in a blindfold that looks the same age as her. She sees her like in the fairground, she sees her in the mirrors, she sees like little triangle objects all the time, like in the glass smashing, and it's actually really scary for a Disney film, don't you think?
But it was intentionally scary because it's based on Florence Randall's novel from 1976, A Watcher in the Woods. But the producer Tom Leach pitched the project to Disney executive Ron Miller, stating that this could be our Exorcist.
Yeah.
So they had full intentions of making it creepy, but obviously you still got the Disney shackles trying to make it family friendly as much as possible.
The book was only written about 4 years before the film was made, wasn't it? Oh, in fact, it's about 3 years. If it's 1977, I think
Yeah.
the book was made. Yeah, and it's a really creepy Disney film. I don't think they've really concentrated on it much. I don't think they released it on DVD for about 20 years after it had been released, I believe.
Yeah, and they weren't, even when it came out, they weren't quite sure what to do with it. I think they'd released it for a while and then they pulled it and reshot the endings. They got a whole bunch of different endings. Apparently there's like about 30 odd different versions they could have had as the ending. I remember it as a child. I just remember the little blonde girl with the blindfold in the House of Mirrors. That was the thing I remembered most from it. And I remembered it being a bit creepy, but it's almost like my first horror film, you know, like it's as if it was a kid's book. My very first Inception, or very first Conjuring. It is just very creepy, and apparently it had a different beginning as well.
That's right, with a little girl with a doll.
Yeah, and there's a little girl playing with a doll, and the doll gets shot by the green light. So the prawn alien shoots.
Yeah, stop saying prawn alien until we actually get to that bit. Because
okay, well this is when they're developing it. I mean, I'd like to have read the original story and see exactly how close the film is, or what version of the film is closest to the book.
Yeah. Because this edit, the final edit, I think it took an extra year for them to edit it. I think there were so many endings for it. They wanted to wait and make sure it was okay, you know, so...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the ending, the 81 ending, which is the version of the film
that we've seen, that everyone's seen.
That's the best ending.
Of course it is. And
it's not just because it's the one we remember, because I haven't seen the film since I was a kid, so I didn't really remember the ending anyway. But I watched that version, and then immediately afterwards I looked up 2 alternative endings, and both of them I just thought was really weird. So in the original ending of the film, you've got the 3 kids now as adults holding the doing like the seance thing.
Yeah, let me explain then. So what happens is basically, as you say, as I said earlier, that there's the girl that she keeps seeing the visions of this young girl, and what it turns out is about 30 years before, they done this little sort of initiation ceremony where there's 3 children about the same age, and there was this new girl that just moved in, and they was doing initiation, and it was a total eclipse or something like that. Something happened, the girl disappeared, and there was no trace of her. And and her name was Karen. And these 3 people it's been haunting them all their life. Like each time they see the name Karen, or
her mum, of course.
And her mum, who's played by Bette Davis, and she looks at the young girl, and she looks at her, and she sees her daughter in her. So I think and she's really creepy in it. She's brilliant, Bette Davis in it.
See, what I'd remembered as a kid, I always thought the girl that disappeared was a lot younger. I always thought she was meant to be like about 10, but she's not. She's meant to be about 17, isn't she?
At 16, 15, 16, 17,
well,
maybe.
I'm sure she said she was 17 when she went missing, and it's only seeing it now as an adult, especially when she takes the blindfold off and her big nose, and you think, well, that's...
I have to sort of say bits like that.
Well, she's just
no, but the girl that they used at the end, as you say, they've changed the girl completely, and it just looked... I think the original one, the one that we've all known, the one that is the original release from 1981, not the 1980 release... is just a completely fantastic film from start to finish. Whereas that other one, I wouldn't have even given it a second look. If I'd watched that with one of them endings, either of them endings, but it was just like you've just completely ruined that whole film with that ending.
I was disappointed I couldn't find the alternative opening though, because I would like to have seen it just...
out of curiosity, yeah.
Yeah, just see, because apparently the original opening with the girl playing with the doll, and the doll gets shot or something by this green light and shatters on the floor, and the kid runs away. It's supposed to be a lot scarier, and that was the reason they changed it.
Yeah.
Which, for me, isn't a good enough reason to change it.
No.
I think if you're doing a horror, you might as well go full on and do it. Like Disney made the same mistake recently with the new Doctor Strange, which where they was going to make it a horror, but then last minute they've suddenly changed their mind and said, okay, let's reel it back on the horror. And you think, well...
Yeah.
Either go full on or don't at all.
I think the problem with, if you think 1980, I think the reason why Disney didn't know what to do with this film, because Disney at that time especially was it's children's and it's like cartoons, magical, and they sort of wanted to disassociate themselves with this film because it was not their brand.
No.
You know, the film is good, and I think it has. A lot of people don't know about it because it is so like sort of like cult. You know, like it's only certain people like know about it. Like it's never been shown on telly. It's rarely been shown on telly.
Yeah.
It used to be maybe once or twice years ago, but I've not seen it on telly for years. And a lot of people wouldn't know about it. Like you wouldn't say, "Oh, that Disney film, The Watcher in the Woods." They'd go, "I don't know it."
No.
So.
Well, I mean, this is when Ron Miller, the producer, he was obviously had different ideas from the rest of Disney. I imagine he's in a world where in the 70s you've now got all these psychological thrillers like Exorcist. He was obviously a fan of Exorcist, thinking, well, that's the kind of films we should be making, almost forgetting the company that he works for, Disney. So then when he's pushing for this, they give him a bit of credit, and he was also spent time in the film division, and he co-produced credits such as Son of Flubber, Summer Magic, and That Darn Cat.
Never heard of it.
1965. That Darn Cat came up before.
Did it?
Yeah.
What, in Bedknobs and Broomsticks or something like that?
No, what else came out in 65 that we spoke about recently?
We haven't done a one from 65 yet, I don't think.
There was something...
We haven't done nothing, I don't think we've done anything from the 60s yet.
No, but there was some reason that Darn Cat affected something else from the 60s.
It might be something that you might have read or something somewhere.
Maybe something to do with Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I'm not sure.
But, right, well, I'm sure we'll find out at some later date. But on the whole though, I think the film is it's one that stuck with me over the years, and as watching it again today, like when I watched it the other day, still really good. It's it's like kind of a thriller, kind of suspense thriller, horror. It's very scary for kids. And Bette Davis is really scary in it. She's like quite creepy, but she's brilliant in it. Obviously, it's Bette Davis, and the young girl who's Carl Richards. Yeah. She's obviously well known for playing Lindsay in Halloween.
And Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills.
Yeah. But that's her main thing. But she's also known, I think she does one of them Real Housewives shows. I think that a lot of people know her now because she's one of them Real Housewives of, I don't know, wherever. There's about 100 of them, isn't there? So she's one of them. She's involved with one of them.
I don't know about all.
No, I don't know.
Bette Davis, of course, was also in All About Eve, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and Dark Victory. She's well known.
She's legendary. She's like that. I think she's hundreds of films she's been in.
Lynn-Holly Johnson. The only other thing I could find really of note was For Your Eyes Only, which was a James Bond film.
I think she's done a lot of TV stuff in America. She's done like sort of, like the soapy sort of
Ice Castles, stuff like that. You had Carroll Baker playing Helen. She was the
mother.
The mother. She's been in Baby Doll, The Game, and Kindergarten Cop, which those people would know her from. I think she was like the villain in Kindergarten Cop.
I can't remember that film.
No. And David McCallum, who plays Paul, the dad, he was actually a genuine musician. So when he's playing like the jazz piano and stuff like that's all. He's an accomplished musician. Which that bit when they come into the house and he starts playing this nice bit of jazz music, and they go, "Oh, I thought you was a real musician," like slagging him off, and I thought, that's really good.
Yeah.
If someone comes and started playing my piano like that, but I suppose it's just supposed to show how snobby the English are. It has to be classical music or nothing at all. That's another thing I liked about this film was how quintessentially English it was. All from the very beginning, from the opening shots in the woods, you think that looks like, I know it's not Epping Forest, but it looks like Epping Forest. I think it's shot round Pinewood Studios.
That's correct, yeah.
And this, you can't mistake the English countryside for anywhere else. I know the last podcast we done, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and there was much of that was shot in California, and when you know that and you look, you can see some elements and you think, well, I can see they're trying to make it look as English as possible. This one, there's no mistaking.
No.
Because of the size of the budget and everything, you could tell, like the outside shots, it couldn't be anywhere else but England. And I like the old English house and this little village, this little countryside. It's the kind of idyllic life that you think, when I'm old, I've had enough of the city, I want to move to like a little village like that.
But then on the other hand, looking at that, you look and go, how creepy that is. You're so isolated and you're in the middle of the woods in this big mansion.
I like it. I love that.
Well, that's you, innit?
Yeah.
Also, what was that? Who was he? We was just talking about the
dad.
The dad. What was his name? Because I remember him. He was in a thing with Joanna Lumley called Sapphire and Steel.
David McCallum.
Yeah, he was in. That's what he was in, like a series. Yeah, like sort of like the Professionals and the Avengers, that kind of thing. Right, yeah. Sapphire and Steel, I think from the 70s, maybe 60s.
Yeah. This, of course, came out. There was a similarity I see in this with this and The Shining. So obviously with the writing the name backwards. Yes. Because when she writes Karen backwards.
Yeah, the younger of the sisters, the older one, the blonde one, the one who's about 16. 17, she's the one that keeps seeing these visions, and the younger one is about 12, would you say? The one who plays Carl Richards from Halloween. She, every now and again, she has these...
She hears
things, or she suddenly sort of goes into a trance, and she writes, like, Neric, like, backwards, and while...
Yeah, well, Karen backwards.
It's named Karen, yeah. And she goes, and so the woman's one of the women that's actually to do with the seance thing. When Karen disappeared, she sees it, and then she sort of goes in shock because she sees the name Karen written there. And then afterwards, she goes, "What'd you do that for?" She goes, "Oh, that's me name with my little dog. That's what I'm going to call him, Neric," kind of thing. It's like she keeps going into trances, like she has a vision that the sister's going to get hit by the bike.
That's
and
right.
she sits there all of a sudden. She's playing. All of a sudden, she goes, "Come here, come here." And she goes, and like she makes her sister get off this hill just as this motorbike race thing it hits where she was going to stand. And it's like, "Why did you call me? How did you know that was going to happen?" She goes, "No." She goes, "I didn't call you. Neric called you." Like the dog.
So the prawn alien was looking out for us. But yeah, when I see that, I straight away thought, oh, well, obviously they must have got that from The Shining, but they wouldn't have, because Shining came out at the same time.
Yeah.
So it would have been in development at the same time.
Yeah.
The books probably came out about the same time, because what year did Carrie come out as a novel? Carrie, early 70s.
Yeah, Carrie wasn't long. I think it's only about 4 years before the book and the film.
Yeah, so the Shining and Watcher in the Woods as novels probably would have come out about the same time.
Yeah.
The films came out about the same time, so it's just a coincidence, the name backwards thing.
Yeah. But it's a nicely paced film. Like, you get to sort of it gets you wondering what's going on. Who's this girl with the blindfold? why are these people acting all shifty when when she's mentioned what's going on with Bette Davis' character? Why is she living in the little cottage rather than the big house? And what happened to her daughter? And there's all this mystery, and she starts uncovering stuff. But I did look into the budget of this, and I've must be thin. My budget it didn't do good at all. I think it cost about 16 million to make, and I think it made about 7 million. Is that right?
Well, this is the thing. It doesn't help when they don't have faith in the film and they pull it out. The budget was 9 million, and in the box office it made 5 million.
Oh, yeah.
So straight away that was a loss. So what happened? It was filmed at Pinewood Studios and the surrounding areas in Buckinghamshire. As I said, it was like quintessentially English.
Yeah.
They actually made it recently as a TV film.
Have they?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Angelica Houston plays the Bette Davis character, and I think it was Melissa Joan Hart directed it. Clarissa the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, I like this one. I like it because it's got a touch of. I think maybe because it's nostalgia for us that we remember it from that. But I like the old Englishy kind of feel about it. You know, it's got that old-fashioned sort of like the type round about the time, I suppose, Words Will Gummidge. You know, it's that kind of thing, isn't it?
Well, it says at the time Disney were trying to target a young adult audience. The film had its premiere at the Ziegfeld Theatre in New York City on 17th of April 1980, but was pulled from release after 10 days. So you can't expect it to make that much in 10 days anyway. Yeah. And future screenings were cancelled by the studio because of an overwhelming negative response from critics and audience.
Because of the ending?
Several changes were made thereafter, including the excision of a pre-credit sequence, as well as the filming of an entirely new ending, which was directed by Vincent McEveety. Which was directed by Vincent McFeety without Hughes' involvement. Disney re-released the revised cut of the film on October 9th, 1981, and it grossed 5 million. So you think by that point it already received bad word of mouth because people said, "Oh,
it's a shame because it would have been interesting to see what it would have." Because the film that we all know now, the re-edit, is fantastic. It's a really good film. So it would have been interesting to see how that would have gone down, because that other ending, as you say, we will explain these two other endings, but how they completely ruin that whole, like the suspense, the thriller, the horror, all that kind of, they're going in a certain direction with this film, because there's some scary bits, like look at a bit in the chapel when she looks in and she keeps seeing this girl with a blindfold like laying in the coffin, in the House of Mirrors, in the fun fair, she sees her like in the cracked glass, she also looks in the mirror and don't see her own reflection, and there's lots of really creepy little bits that goes on.
Miller, the producer, had recruited John Howe to direct the film after seeing his previous movie, The Legend of Hell House, with Roddy McDowall. Right. Who, of course, we mentioned last week in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Right.
With his limited part. So
it's
connected, isn't they?
Yeah. So the spoiler alert for this is there's another total eclipse coming. She's manages to get the 3 people that was originally there when Karen was having the initiation about 30 years ago, and it's got to be at this moment because it's not going to happen for another 30 years, and she's trapped and she wants to get her back. Anyway, and she says, I'll stand there and I'll be like where Karen was, and like everyone's, like Bette Davis' character even says, don't do it, and all this. It's quite a built-up bit, so it's quite a good ending, you know? Yeah. It's like it's really sort of like, all right, what's going to happen now? The cut that you can see now is the good cut. Basically, I don't think you'd find it with that ending on. You'd find the other endings as a feature, which is good, because they're not good at all. But this ending, like well, we'll be talking about that. This ending that we've got now it's a lovely ending, because basically, okay, spoiler alert here, all of a sudden it all hits at the right time. The young girl, she goes into a trance and she explains, you see this white light going through, it hits where Jan is standing, the other girl. They don't break the circle this time, because that's the reason why last time they broke the circle. That's why she disappeared. The stupid woman. This time they didn't break the circle. And all of a sudden, rather than Jan disappearing, she gets flown up through. And all of a sudden, Bette Davis walks in and her daughter is standing there. And it's a nice ending. It ties it up nicely without having to go too far. And it was just a nice, perfect ending for it. Then we found out there was 2 alternative endings, which is the ones we talked about, and I'll let Charlie explain one of them to you.
Right, okay, well, the stripped back of the alternative ending is, so as they're doing that seance, this big prawn-like creature, think like District 9, this could be a prequel to District 9, it comes it turns out that is what the Watcher is, this big creature thing, and it starts going through the church, making all these weird noises, and it
looks so fake as well.
Engulfs the girl, and
in its wings.
It's in its wings, disappears, and then a few moments later, she reappears with the girl who'd gone missing. But then there's an even longer version where it turns out it's an alien, and it goes onto this spaceship where the girl was in a big crystal, and then she walks into the crystal, and then she comes back and goes, "Oh look, I found her," and that just leaves so many questions. It's like, okay, so the whole time it's aliens.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the total eclipse and all that kind of stuff.
It's just that must be a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's not very good. It's funny. It's funny to watch.
It's
worth watching just to see how ridiculous alternative endings can be.
Yeah. And that can ruin a whole film, because that film up until that point, I understand now that if I'd been watching that in the cinema, the original crap one, I would have gone, I never would have watched that again. And I probably wouldn't have gone back and revisited it, because I would have thought, you're not going to change it that much.
No.
If you've looked, you'd go, oh, it's good, and all of a sudden you go, is that it? Really? Seriously?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know how the remake, what kind of ending they went with. I'm no interest really in watching the remake.
No, I like
just out of curiosity, I just want to see how they felt it should have gone. It's like looking.
It's like a Muppet. It's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah. It's like, it completely ruins everything you've seen up until that point.
The film, as we know it, is very psychological, and it's very sort of like spiritually based.
Yeah.
It's like otherworld type thing, but it's all earthly based.
Yeah.
This one makes it now like Close Encounters.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a factor in it. I imagine someone who's tasked with doing an ending for this, or one of the people who's doing the ending for it, must have probably just watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind and thought, oh, that's the kind of thing we want.
Yeah.
Everyone's into aliens at the moment. Let's make it an alien. Why not?
Yeah.
And
it just goes against everything that you've been watching for the last hour and a half.
I'm going to quickly tell you what the plot was of the original book.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so 15-year-old Jan Carstairs is the narrator. Her family moved from Ohio to a small town in Massachusetts, where her father has accepted a teaching position at a local college. They live in a big old brick and stucco house in the country, which borders on a forest. So straight away, the book is actually set in America, which sort of takes it away from me. I mean, I don't think it's just the fact that we're English, but I like the fact that there's such a big cultural difference between the family and the place where they've gone to.
Yeah.
The previous owner, Mrs. Elwood, lives nearby. 50 years earlier, her 15-year-old daughter, Karen, disappeared in the woods. They bought the house. Jan had known they would. It was her mother's kind of house, yet it was Jan who had made the purchase possible. Mrs. Elwood, who was selling the house only because she had to, had talked to Jan and said, I'll have to take a chance on you. What chance was that? So, it happens in the film.
She says that. It's roughly what's gone on so far.
Moving in, Jan felt the Watcher still, but the only concrete evidence was a rash of broken mirrors, all with a large X across the middle. Not until the family went on a picnic near the old pond on the property did more clues come, and then they came as puzzles to be solved, as mysteries to be understood, as incredible facts to be absorbed, and desperate need begging for a prompt action. And then giant prongs come.
See, that bit as well is when she wanders off into the woods. It's got some really good bits, like, and she sees the flash of light, and then she looks into the three circles, which is obviously to do with the total eclipse and the holding hands, and then she
Davis
falls under. Then and it looks like she goes under the water and she gets trapped under a branch, and all you see is Bette Davis like pushing her down. You're thinking she's trying to kill her, and then it's like,
I remember when that was happening, that I had a flashback to that. I remember thinking how scary she was, Bette Davis, and it did look like she was attacking her with the stick. And just go, get off me!
The little girl was trying to get her off. And the little girl was actually a really good actress, I think. That Carl Richards, she's good in Halloween, but this is about 2-3 years later. Yeah. So she's that little bit more. She's even better in this, but she's really believable. Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't have more of a career, really.
I think she's. You get that with a lot of child actors. They sort of they some of them only do one film. Like you look at them, like say things like Annie, Oliver, loads of things like that. Bugsy Malone. They're like massive, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factories. There's so many like big films. That's a lot of the actors when you look at it. Maybe one or two have gone on to do little bits and bobs, but that was basically that was it. And then their career, so they've peaked at the age of 10. It's sort of a bit. So I mean, so same with her. Probably she might have. I didn't see much more in her filmography that I would have known of, and I think then basically she just probably then she got married, maybe changed careers, got married, had a couple of kids, and then she's done that not Desperate Housewives, but then Housewives thing.
No, I don't know.
Yeah,
so
no,
what was that about then? What, she got married to someone rich?
No, I don't know, but I know she's obviously got a lot of money, so it might be the fact that her husband's rich or so. The Real Housewives shows are about rich housewives in certain areas of like America. You know, rich housewives of New York, rich housewives of Tennessee or something, or
yeah,
know?
I'm not.
I don't know. I've never ever watched any of that, but that's why I know that's what she was famous for. And I recognised her obviously from Halloween. I love Halloween, and also Watcher in the Woods.
So when this came out, 1980, but the version we know is 81.
Yeah.
So how old do you reckon you would have been when you first see it, though?
I probably would have seen it not long after, because I think we used to get pirated copies of videos. You know, someone used to come round every week, and they'll be like, and you go, right, what do you want to watch, kind of thing. So it'll be pirated.
So you was probably about 9 or 10 when you first see it.
Yeah,
anyway.
probably. Yeah. But it was good. But I've always liked it. And it still holds up today. If you think 1980, it's over 40 years ago. You know, 43 years ago. So it's like it's a nice little story in itself. It's like it's got the start, the middle, and the end, and it all
it's
fits
concise.
together.
It's concise. Yeah. It's not. It doesn't outstay its welcome.
No,
it's nice because it's like when I was watching it the other day. I was surprised when it got to the bit of the church at the end. I thought I knew it was the ending. Like I was having flashbacks. I was thinking, I know this is the end of the film, but it seems so quick.
Yeah.
How it's got there
because it's fast paced and there's lots of stuff happens. Usually you get one or two things happen. Two things happen at the very beginning when she's looking out into the woods, and then you get that perfect triangle.
Yeah, and see, like the boy who she's obviously interested in, and likes her. You don't really find out much about him. No. You usually thought with other films sometimes. No, it's fine. But I was glad you didn't have to.
Yeah, you don't need to. You just know that he's up there, obviously, sort of dating a little bit and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. His mum was one of the ones in the initiation.
And this is the other thing with all the characters in it. There isn't really a villain.
There's no villains.
Because even the guy who you think he looks like an arse, the one who's like go away kind of thing. He's actually the most sensible out of the three of them. Yeah. Because he's the one who makes that woman stay. He goes, no, you're not going this time. We'll stay here. We'll do it properly.
Because it's haunted us for the last 30 years. I ain't going for another 30 years of it, losing another girl.
Yeah. Well, it's so often with things like this, it'll be like someone's got an ultimatum where they're trying to get a hold of property. They go, no, I've got to win this house back or something like that. No. So it's nice how it feels, all the characters feel fleshed out and real without having to spend too much time showing them.
Yeah. Just the right amount of time on each of them, I think, as well.
Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it
50%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the audience,
I think less.
No, slightly more. 57%.
57. Yeah, I know it wasn't very good, but I do think that is because of the original ending.
Yeah, and also like you said, it's the wrong audience. Yeah. In a way, it's like if you're going to see a film directed by the guy who made Conjuring and Insidious, and it's just like a slapstick comedy, you go, this ain't what I've paid to come see. No. So likewise, parents who was taking their kids, let's go see the new Disney film. Yeah. Let's
give them nightmares.
It's 6.1 on IMDb, so it gives you an idea. I fully understand though that it is more of a niche.
But I also do think it would have been a lot better with the version that we've all grown up with. If that had been the one and only version, I think it still would have done a lot better than it was. It still would have been, but people wouldn't have liked it because it was scary and they was expecting something like 101 Dalmatians or Bambi or Snow White. It's a really good film by itself, and it's a good story, and it's good. It's well cast, and it's just a lovely little story.
Yeah, with the cast, obviously Bette Davis was the big name on it. She actually celebrated her 50th anniversary in motion picture at the world premiere of this film.
Oh, did she?
So that shows how long she'd been in the industry.
Did you also know that, the flashback that shows 30 years before, when it shows the night of when Karen disappears, and it's she wanted to play the younger version of herself as well. Yeah. But and they the director
sent everyone out of the room and said to her, look, Betty, you you can't play the younger person, because she was like 70,
Yeah.
and she was wanting to play a 40-year-old.
They tried to, and she took a big drag of her cigarette, and she went, "Yeah, you're damn right." And when she
Yeah,
looked at the Rush's back, she looks like probably looking like Baby Jane again. You know. So you watched this again the other day for the first time, probably in about 35 years, maybe 30 odd years, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And you watched it with Mum, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did Mum like it?
Yeah, but she knew it anyway.
Yeah, but
so
she
she
likes
was
this
like,
film.
"Yeah, I'm happy to sit down and watch it." So it shows that it speaks to certain people, but again, it's one of those films which you wouldn't necessarily recommend it to certain people. You know, if someone's just saying, "Oh, I really love this,"
Has your Lily seen it?
no,
I think she'd like it.
yeah, she possibly would, and
Yeah.
I would watch it with her.
Yeah. I think it's because it's a good story and it's jumpy, and it's as you say, it's like an
creepy.
introduction to horror.
Yeah, it is, but that's the thing. She's already seen
She's
hardcore
proper-
horror.
yeah.
She see Exorcist when she was like 5 or something. So this.
You didn't let her see the whole of The Exorcist, did you?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, but she's fine. She's. It's like when we was watching American Wife in London with her, and there's the part in that which always used to make me jump. And I watched her when she watched it. She didn't flinch.
What bit made you jump? What, the dream sequence in the bed?
With the blue face. Yeah.
Yeah, with the yellow eyes when she goes up to the
Yeah.
bed. Yeah.
That bit.
That's the bit that scared me out the most out of the whole film. But it shows that they're desensitised now.
But then there'll be other people surprise you. I know our cousin Adam. He watched this a couple of years ago, and he's like, "Oh, have you seen this film, Watcher in the Woods?" And he kept raving about it, saying,
Oh, right, so
"Oh,
that's
it's
good.
really creepy." And then he was saying about, "And I've just watched the bloody alternative endings. That's stupid."
So
it's
good,
almost like a
good.
companion piece. You have to watch the film, and then
I'm glad he likes
watch the
that. I'm
alternative
glad he likes
endings.
it.
But don't watch the alternative endings before you watch the film.
No,
Obviously.
but you didn't, did you? I said to you, I said, I'm not even going to speak to you about them. I goes, but you've got to watch them. Luckily, I looked on YouTube, they was there.
Yeah.
I said, watch the film, because you will get the film as it's meant to be seen, as we've all seen it. Then, if you want to just go, what the fuck, then look at the...
Yeah, I had seen, because when he mentioned that, this is going back a couple of years now, during lockdown, and he was saying, "Oh, I just watched Watcher in the Woods." I think he had seen it as a kid, but he said, "Oh, it's really good."
Yeah.
But have you seen the alternative endings? And I heard about them through, funny enough, you had a book. You had a Disney book.
Oh, right, okay.
It was like the history of Disney.
Yeah.
For like,
Encyclopedia of Disney characters or something like that.
It
Oh, yeah,
was-
it's up there. No. Is that it?
No, that's
Disney
the animated company.
characters.
No, it was a separate book. It was one about the history of Disney. I think it goes up to like 89 or something like that. I think it ends round about Roger Rabbit.
Right.
And I remember in that book, it had pictures of the alternative ending from Watcher in the Woods with
Right.
that big creature.
Right.
And that's all I knew about it. And I thought, I don't remember that in the film.
Yeah.
You know?
It's lucky you didn't remember it, because it's absolute rubbish, that ending. So did you enjoy the film then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
film.
no, it's a very good film.
I enjoyed it, and it's it still holds up today. It's one of them things. It's just in a little capsule on its own that sometimes people come across, and it's a nice, pleasant surprise.
And it's almost like when you're watching it, the cinematography in it it's almost like a dream. You know, it seems like really sort of wispy and like, again, it's the setting of the English countryside.
Yeah.
Is so idyllic.
Yeah.
You know, and it just works so well with the idea of this otherworldly creature sort of watching from the woods.
And also, I love the creepy music at the beginning. It's like a music box. It's like a right little sort of creepy little music box, but then it suddenly starts going a bit like, is it the violins or something?
Yeah.
Or cello? I don't know. There's like a bit of a string instrument going on there, you know,
Yeah.
sort of. So it's sort of luring you into this sort of like, this is a happy film, and all of a sudden it will change the tone of it a little bit. But I like the score of it. I thought
The score was
good.
done by Stanley Myers, who was also known for The Deer Hunter and Witches. They're, I think, the two most famous ones that he'd been involved with.
Yeah, but it sets off straight away from the very beginning because of that score. You sort of go, oh, it's a bit creepy.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, you couldn't fault the score. For whatever criticism people have for the film, you think the score itself makes it.
Well, the film is good. It's the endings, the alternative endings. I think are the ones that ruin it. I don't think people would really sort of dig the film out.
No, but
It might not be what they're looking
with
for as a
today's-
Disney.
I wouldn't recommend it to, say, anyone under the age of, say, 25. Apart from people more cultured.
Yeah.
But the general cinema-going public now, they want crash, bang, wallop all the time. They just want cars, and they want this, and they want their like horror films to be jump scares every 5 minutes.
Right.
Oh, something,
Yeah.
some weird creature coming out and some creepy old woman. Not realising this is like the archetype for all that kind of thing. But it doesn't go so over the top. You know, Bette Davis hasn't got to have sort of like pure white eyes.
No, she's like a classic. She's like basically where she's a legend anyway. Yeah. She's like from the old school. So
yeah. Well, this is it. In this, what she does well is before you get to know that much about the character, all the way up to the part with her poking with a stick. Yeah. She makes you feel uneasy. You think, creepy old woman. Yeah. But then when you get to know her a bit more, you think, actually, she's just an old woman. Yeah. She's just like this old woman who's gone through a huge tragedy.
Whose only child disappeared one night and never come home.
And it's a hard balance to get because you think if she went too over the top with the creepy part before that, you wouldn't believe her to be a kindly old woman. You know.
But at the end, it's nice because it's got a nice happy ending.
Yeah, because she's never really horrible to the kids. No. You know, she's staring about, but when you know why, you understand why.
It's because
she's
Jan
like
reminds her of Karen. That's right.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Okay, well, I'm glad you liked it.
Good choice.
Yeah.
And in the next podcast is our 12th one.
Okay, yes.
So I've picked 12 Angry Men.
All right, nice one.
Have you seen that?
I don't think so. It's from the 50s, is it?
Yeah, it's a very highly regarded film. Well, this is like tradition. This is sort of like the quintessential old black and white. It's from 1957, and it's purely set in one room. It's just a jury talking about the case.
I've heard of it.
You don't actually know the characters' names. They're just juror number 1, juror number 2, and juror number 3. But it does sort of like reel you in. When I first came across it like late one night. I was it was about 2 a.m. BBC Two always used to show old black and white films. I thought this would send me to sleep, and it didn't. Yeah. Stayed there the whole time thinking, I'm interested to see what happens. Yeah. So I won't say much more, but
I love the old black and white films because they used to have fantastic stories, fantastic actors, and that's when movie stars were movie stars. Yeah. And that's what I love about that era. It gives you a completely different feel to what like the films like the stars of today. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us this week, and we'll hope to see you again. All right, see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.